My name is Brian Jensen, and this is my ENME 351 final project. It's a homemade pinball machine in which I've used two servo motors to run the flappers for the pinball machine, one 12-volt DC motor to run the spinner, which will knock the ball around during gameplay. I have 4 LEDs mounted on the board, which will activate during various events during gameplay, whether it be scoring points, losing a life, tilting the machine, or when the game is over. These 4 bumpers have copper conductive tape on them, which will be used to complete a switch when the steel ball, which is what's used to run the game, makes contact between them, which will be used to register points through the Arduino. I also have a similar style switch made here to register when you miss the ball entirely and you lose a life. I also have a piezo buzzer underneath, which will register tones depending on points scored, tilting the machine, or end of gameplay. So the gameplay begins by launching the ball with this spring-loaded plunger, but I'll go ahead and show you how the board, how the game works before I try to play. Okay. And I will launch my processing code, which will generate my scoreboard. Okay, so here I have a spot for points scored, lives remaining, and the high score. So ordinarily the ball would get launched from the plunger and into the field of play, where it would contact bumpers, and as it's contacting the bumpers, it'll begin to register points and activate the piezo buzzer and the LEDs for auditory and visual confirmation and scoring points. And so you let the ball come down, you've missed it entirely, and now you are going to lose a life by missing the ball. So now it's retained your score. You now have 2 lives remaining, and your high score is still the only score that's been registered on the game. So let's say we launch the ball again, we come out of the field play, and we score some more points. But in gameplay, you get a little too excited and rock the machine. Alright, so now you've activated the tilt feature, you lose another life, but your scores remain. And so finally, you launch your last ball into the field of play, you start scoring more points, and then you might come down and activate the flappers to keep the ball in the field of play. Or you may have occasion to stop the spinner, which you can do by the front switch. In any case, eventually you will end up losing your final life, which means that game over. And there's a distinct pattern of tones for the game over. But now you can see the game has started over where you have 0 points, 3 lives, but the high score from the previous game is retained. Now let's just go ahead and ring up more points than the high score by activating the buzzer, just to show that the highest score will always be retained. And here I'm just tripping the fail switch, ending the game again. High score is retained. Thanks for watching. And here we have the circuit for the project. I have a 12-volt battery that's supplying power to the Arduino, and through a 5-volt voltage converter, it's supplying 5 volts to the various components in the game. And I also have 12 volts being jumped off to this rail on my breadboard to supply the gear motor, which runs the spinner on top of the game. I have 2 servo motors controlling the flippers for the pinball machine. The Wii nunchuck is being used to monitor the tilt so that you don't rock the game back and forth to try to alter your score. I have 4 LEDs that flash at various points in the game, whether you're scoring points or if you've activated the tilt or if the game is over. Each of the bumpers on top are wired like a simple switch, with the conductive tape on the bottom being one side and the conductive tape on top of the bumper being another side of the switch. So when the steel ball contacts the bumper, it'll register points being scored. And here I have my Arduino Uno, which controls the whole thing, and I have a piezo buzzer for tone generation at various points in the game. This 12 volt DC gear motor is being run through a MOSFET controlled by the Arduino based on switch input here, so you can either turn the motor on or off depending on how you want to alter your gameplay.